Grace and peace to you in the name of God the Creator, Christ the Redeemer, and the Spirit who sustains us. Amen. Do appearances matter? If we're able, we take care about our appearances. We think about how we want to present to the world. What style of clothes and shoes do we prefer? How do we wear our hair? Do we color it or not? And if so, what color or colors? Our hygiene impacts our appearance, how often we shower and wash our clothes, our oral hygiene habits, whether we wash behind our ears and under our fingernails. Even remembering to check whether we have spinach in our teeth can impact our appearance. But do any of those things matter to our overall well-being or to our standing in our community? Our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues tend to take us as we are, and we all change over time. We change how we wear our hair. We gain and lose weight. Occasionally, a change in our appearance might point to a temporary condition that might impact us, such as a sunburn, poison ivy, contact dermatitis. But even though those changes to our appearance, those temporary conditions might lead to temporary changes in our behavior, staying out of the sun, for example, or wearing long sleeves to cover an unsightly rash, or even a trip to the doctor for a round of steroids, they don't impact our welcome among our community. We are still welcome. We still belong. Belonging is at the heart of Leviticus chapters 13 and 14. When we keep in mind the arc that we have explored thus far throughout Leviticus, we can see themes emerging. The people gathered together at the foot of Mount Sinai in the presence of the glory of God are receiving instruction on what it means to be God's people, what it means to belong, what it means to live in community with each other and with God at their center. How to live in right relationship with each other and God. And when that relationship gets out of balance, how to put it back in balance again. But even beyond that, as we have heard and as we will explore further in the coming weeks, is the question of holiness, of being acceptable to be in the presence of God, ritually and ceremonially clean. And so the question of skin ailments comes into question. But first, I need to say that the word infectious is misleading. There's nothing in the Hebrew that leads us to infectious disease. Even the word leprosy, probably in the background of our collective imaginations, is misleading. Many translations say defiling, while others say serious. But the priests aren't doctors. They aren't diagnosing or treating anything. They're determining whether the rash, whether the unsightly ailment rises to the level of making the person ceremonially unclean, unable to worship God. In the understanding of the Israelite community, this would spread throughout the household and then out from there. And so while the skin ailments are not infectious, the ceremonial uncleanness is. Leviticus is highly repetitive, so we only have the first few verses in our reading listing the characteristics of the ailment. But if we had read on, we would learn that the initial period of being ceremonially unclean, of living alone outside the camp, would be 7 days. After that, if needed, it would last for another 7 days. During that time, the people who have been banished due to their skin ailment have to make themselves even more conspicuous, tearing their clothes, not combing their hair, and masking the lower half of their faces. And they have to shout out, "Unclean! Unclean!" anytime someone comes near. Thankfully, there's relief in sight for anyone living in these conditions. The banishment is temporary until the scaly patches on their skin have healed and the 3-step process of becoming ceremonially clean can begin. We don't have to look any further than Moses and Aaron's sister Miriam, who was struck with a skin ailment after criticizing Moses in Numbers 12, to see how this affects people and their families. Aaron and Moses are both devastated and plead with God on her behalf that she not be banished, begging that she be healed. But God holds firm, and Miriam is shut out of the camp for 7 days until she is healed. Now, there are examples in the Bible where this skin ailment is associated with God's wrath. King Uzziah, who presumes beyond his authority to enter the temple and burn incense, is one. Gehazi, Elisha's servant, who claims a reward from the Aramean general Naaman after Elisha heals him from leprosy, is another. And Miriam is the third. But there are 2 strong cases against skin ailments being a punishment from God. One is Job, who is the innocent victim in a contest between God and Satan. And the other is Leviticus itself. Yes, these skin ailments are a sign of ritual uncleanness that must be cleansed, but it was not caused by sin. No confession is required, and forgiveness is unnecessary. But what does it do to someone to be declared to be outside the community, shut out, set apart from everyone they know and love? What does it do to their loved ones, to the community itself? We're dealing with these sorts of existential questions right now. For many people, they center around questions of immigration status. Many people who came to the U.S. as refugees are seeing that their refugee status is being challenged or even revoked. Others who are in the midst of the immigration process are being detained at regular immigration appointments. Still others are being picked up on the street. Many immigrants are being banished from the communities in which they have lived and worked for years or even decades, held in internment camps across the country, or even removed from the United States and taken to countries where they have little to no community to rely on. No close family or friends, no jobs or prospects of finding one, sometimes no knowledge of the language, and now even citizenship itself. Both for naturalized citizens, those who have come to this country, gone through the process and taken the oath, and those who were born here, is in question. Because make no mistake about it, this is overwhelmingly about appearance, overwhelmingly about people with black and brown skin. This isn't about some infectious strain of violent criminality running rampant through the first and second and third generation immigrant families from Mexico or Venezuela or El Salvador or Sudan or anywhere else, because there isn't one. This is about racism and the attempt to equate dark skin with sin and evil. Job lived in a society that equated cleanliness with godliness and uncleanliness with sin. But despite that, he persisted in his belief that if God is truly God, he, Job, would not always be exiled, and God would not always be silent when Job called out for help, for mercy, for relief. So if Job is our model, we should expect And we do hear cries of injustice, not just from the ones who are banished outside the community, who are told that they are unclean, not welcome to be a part of the community, part of society. We are living in the in-between right now. We are waiting, and we are hoping. We are praying, and we are speaking out, crying injustice along with our siblings who are banished, doing our best to keep the faith, knowing that God promises that the banishment won't last forever, knowing that eventually the reinstatement into the community will come. But who will be reinstated? Who is in need of being ceremonially cleansed? Who needs to be made right with the community, made right with God? Not those who are being banished to the camps. That's for sure. That's where the analogy breaks down. In our gospel text for today, Jesus promises us that if we are the ones in need of restoration, we will be restored. But will we be the 9, joyfully off to the priest to be reunited with those we have missed? Or will we be the Samaritan, recognizing that something larger is happening, something greater at work than our individual healing? It won't be immediate. There's a restoration that follows the paradigm of creation over the course of 8 days, a gradual process of reintegration into the community, ending with echoes of worship, a time to rebuild relationships, rebuild trust, rebuild community. This is a scary time. A time of injustice and division, but it is also a time for us to pull closer together, and not just to each other, but to those who are being challenged and detained. A time for us to love our neighbors and to make sure they know. A time to speak up, not to be silent. A time for community to be stronger than ever, emboldened by the Spirit of God and the love of Jesus. Amen.